Welcome to another installment of ECSD Talk, hosted by me, Alan Buckler, station manager for the Ellenville Central School District's very own radio station 107.9 WELV. We are recording this episode in March of 2021, and I am delighted to be joined today by Village of Ellenville Police Chief Philip Mattracion. Hi, Phil.
Hey, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Good. Enjoying the cold weather, hoping for some warm weather, but
Indeed, that's why I picked a nice wintry background for my virtual background for this meeting, because it is pretty cold out there. But I think warm weather is on its way. It's not here yet, but it's on its way.
That would be good.
So today we're going to talk a bit about police reform and how that obviously relates to Ellenville, and who better than yourself, Chief of Police, to ask about that. So I'll let you jump in and just give a brief background into what police reform really means, and then I'll quiz you and you'll tell me a bit about how that relates to Ellenville. So what is police reform, Phil?
I think police reform, in and of itself, you can't just say police reform, what's the topic? It's a broad topic. It has a lot of semantics to it. There's a lot of different facets to police reform. But I think first we got to look at, how does this come about? Where did it come from? All of a sudden we're talking about police reform. First of all, it's something that we should have been discussing all along. But unfortunately, like every other thing that we deal with, sometimes it takes tragedies to bring about change. And in this case is no different than others. We had the George Floyd episode, which brought about violence, brought about protests rather nationwide, and to police, to the incident that happened. And, make no mistake about it, what happened to Mr. Floyd or for any other case that we've had nationwide, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, the list goes on. It brings us to the point we're at today. And unfortunately, we didn't have to get to this point all at once. It should have been a process that occurred over years. What's it take? It takes people to recognize that inherently there's a problem. And what are we going to do to fix the problem? Well, we have to look at, in this case, this was an executive order issued by Governor Andrew Cuomo. And it has it said that by April 1st of this year, municipalities would have a plan set forth to provide to the state, which would take a look at the policies and procedures of the agency, practices of the agency, hiring practices, cultural diversity of the agency, mental health, helping people with mental health issues, concentrating on substance abuse. A lot of different facets to the executive order that municipalities had to present. Yeah. How were they going to get to that? Well, they were told that they had to have a composite makeup of the community on a committee that would lead to the discussions. I took it in the beginning. We started this right from Jump Street. As soon as the executive order came out, I didn't want to waste any time. Started right from Jump Street, invited all the key players that we need to have at the table. Shortly thereafter, comes to a realization, look, police should not be leading police reform. It's good that we got it going, but in the end, it should be led by the community and by stakeholders in the community. And we should, we were at the table to have the input, to provide statistics. But in the end, really, the reality is, and that's why the mayor came in. He took over the meetings and took over, getting us to where we are today. And we've had 2 meetings a month for almost the last year. And we are at a pivotal point in our progress, where tonight, I believe there's, we definitely have a blueprint right now that's going to be presented, and that'll be tonight. That they'll be presenting that, and they'll have some discussions, because we're coming to the end. We're coming to the end where we have to present something. So
right. So I was going to say, let's go back. Do you remember when the order from Cuomo came out?
Last year.
Was it spring of last year? Almost a year ago, right?
About a year ago. Late
spring or very, very early summer was when the edict came out, or in this case, a directive, you said, right? Came out?
Yeah, it was an executive order that came out.
Thank you. So tell me, who were the stakeholders who first got together when, after you said you first pulled some meetings together to say, let's do this right away? Who are we talking about?
We have the same people that are there now as was there in the beginning. We have the NAACP. We have representatives from different religious organizations, and we have representatives of different, the village board, the town board. We have some community members there as well, and we have one of the big things was getting children involved in this. Frank Mulhorn did an excellent job of getting 3 to 4 students from the high school to come over and be part of this committee as well. It was important to get their take on what needed to change. How did they feel? They're the young people. That's what this is going to affect later on in life. We can set the path, but they're the ones going to follow it, and they're the ones that are going to catapult this concept, if you will. And they've been very instrumental in the discussions that I've been at. They've had a lot to say, which is great. And every bit of what was said, we took, we went back, and part of that was revamping our policies and taking a look at our policies and procedures manual. It's the Bible of every police agency. And the one that we have, I don't have it with me here in the office. I have it on a thumb drive, but it is literally a 6-inch binder that thick. And it has literally thousands of pages of procedures and policies and rules of conduct. And there's a policy for everything we do.
Now, is this manual, this policies and procedures book, is that something that's unique to every police department?
It is. There's a template usually issued by the state, but obviously it has to apply to your agency. We're a smaller agency than a larger agency, so we have different things that we do that other agencies don't do. So but there's always a constant in there. There's a constant equation, if you will, of materials that need to be carried out on a daily basis. So there's rules for everything in there. And procedures for everything we do and every call we go to. So the important part is that we focused a lot on our use of force policy, our community policing policy. We had to we instituted we always had a no chokehold ban, but it's a law now, has its own policy. So there's a no chokehold policy now in the village of Ellenville. And that was outlawed by Governor Cuomo to begin with. That's now a felony if a police officer is found to be using a chokehold that results in any serious injury or death. And it's also a violation of policies which lead to termination here in the village of Ellenville as well. So you have another important part to use of force is a duty to intervene. If you remember the George Floyd case, you had officers just standing there doing nothing. They weren't kneeling on the guy's neck or anything like that, but they weren't doing anything to help. So there's a new provision called a duty to intervene. And that's in our new policies as well, our new manual. And that has every officer has a duty to act. They have a duty to intervene if they see that another officer is doing things that they shouldn't be doing or being too aggressive. They have a duty to intervene and act and stop the violence that's being committed against somebody. And that's a very important thing. So. And then we took a look at our mental health, our mental health training. How do we handle mental health? One of the biggest issues nationwide has been how police interact with people who suffer from mental health, who are afflicted with certain mental health disorders, and certainly any opiate addictions, or how police interact with people afflicted with autism, and things of that nature. A lot of the tragedies could have been averted if the officers were trained specifically in how to deal with those situations. And I'm proud to say that our officers have all been trained on how to deal with people that are afflicted with autism. They've also, I sent the officer up to be certified in dealing with critical incident situations, which deals with people who are in crisis. It's a crisis intervention. Officer who he's certified, and now he's coming back to teach the other officers, train the trainer, on how to recognize and deal with people who are in crisis. And when I mean crisis, could be a mental health crisis, could be an opiate crisis, could be a substance abuse crisis, any type of crisis that, listen, very real fact right now is going to be the effects that COVID has had on the general population. There is no question about it. COVID has caused a lot of people to suffer anxieties, depression and things of that nature. So we have to be ready to recognize that as well and how to deal with that. So there was a lot of that we instituted. So, you take what the committee is talking about, and now you got to go back to your agency and say, okay, how do we institute this? What are we going to do? And what do we need to do?
Yeah. And, so is that the process that it took over the last year? Is that you would have these meetings where you mentioned all the public stakeholders besides the police department, but then you would then obviously review internally within your staff to say, this is what we talked about, how are we going to do this, and then you go back to the meetings to say we're going to implement that thing we brought up a month ago. We're going to tackle it this way. Was it a constant evolution of ideas in like that?
Yeah, so that's a great analogy for it, and that's exactly the sum and substance of it. When I was at some of the meeting, or the mayor would call me and say, hey, this is what was brought up. Can you go back and take a look at this? And the village manager. So I definitely did. We went back and we took a look at these things. We changed the policy. So then I would go back to the committee and say, okay, this is what we've done. This is how we've corrected it. This is what we're going to do going forward. And these are the changes that we made, and this is what we've implemented. Yeah. So it was a constant ongoing, and it will be a constant ongoing thing long after the committee dissolves, long after the report is filed. This is going to be a constant curve in which learning and implementing is going to be part of our daily routine in the police field and law enforcement.
Yeah. Well, was that something that was talked about at these meetings? Was to have a constant review and evaluation and look at that? Was that part of the meetings?
Well, what is part of the meeting is this thing that's coming out out of this review is that it will be established a citizens advisory board. So there'll be a citizens advisory board that's being formed as part of the end of this, and we will take a look every year and every 6 months or whatever it takes, whatever the committee, the advisory board feels is we need to do. We need to take a look at something. We'll take a look at it. I will constantly keep the advisory board up to speed on what we're doing, and they're there in case there's any complaints for transparency. So other things we did, Alan, is we got a brand new body cam system in place here, state of the art, top of the line body cameras, WatchGuard V300s. They have a 12-hour recording capacity. They link up to the cars, and they link into other officers that are within 5 or 6 feet between them. We also got the same systems put into our car cam system. So our cars all have the same capabilities now for recording. And in addition, we've installed cameras and video and audio in the entire building of the police department and the outside of the police department. Everywhere a suspect that's in custody goes, the cameras will follow. And there will be audio. So there will be no doubt about what happened. We're going to get the full picture. Sometimes you get these cell phone clips of 10 seconds of what happened, and you don't have the full, that's just, I look at that as a credit to a movie. That's either the beginning credits or the end credits. I want to see the whole movie, and I want to see the credits, the end, and I want to see everything. So my camera system here and the body cam systems, we're going to see the whole thing. And I don't have a problem as long as it meets the approval of the district attorney's office and doesn't violate any labor standards laws. But eventually it will all be played. If there's a situation, I'm going to play the tape. There's nothing to hide here. Yeah, I'm trying to bring an agency to the point where we are as transparent. We are as transparent as the air you breathe. So that is my goal for that. And I have a new mantra that I want to put into effect here too, and that's called conversation, not cuffs. What's coming out of this committee and what you're seeing nationwide, there needs to be more conversation than there needs to be handcuffs. And if we can at all avoid arresting somebody, we're going to do it, as long as it's not a mandate of law, obviously, but we're going to try to initiate conversation. And I think that's important. I think the whole mantra of the Ellenville Police Department, conversation, not cuffs, and understanding people and meeting people and talking to them and helping them is what we're doing. And we have implemented that so far. Yeah. Helping people. I have an officer dedicated to helping people who are homeless. They go over and they talk to them, try to get them help, try to get them into places where they have some shelter and some resources that they can use. We transport people now to rehab centers. Instead of arresting them for opiate problems, we take them and we bring them to a rehab center and try to get them help that way. So I think the more that law enforcement could do to help your fellow neighbors and help everybody out there is going to go a long way in this whole reform, if you will. I see it as just a way to bridge the gaps that exist between perceptions that are out there with law enforcement.
Yeah.
We don't have the problems that other agencies have. I can tell you that one of the things that I've insisted on and we've done, we are way ahead of the curve in being representative of our population. The agency culturally is as a diverse workplace as you will ever find in New York State.
Yeah.
Nationally, we are way ahead of the percentages on minority hiring and being representative of your population. I feel that if you're representative of your population, it's people who understand everybody. So then you're not going to have the problems.
Yeah. Well, that brings to mind, I saw a student, a former student of Ellenville High School, Victor, was helping produce videos as part of this. And he would utilize some of the equipment in the studio to make it. So I overheard part of the conversation where I think they were going out trying to get like the temperature of the community and what their opinion and experience was of the Ellenville Police Department. And it was, I think, well, you can elaborate on this, but it was generally positive, right? The community's interactions across the spectrum of opinions was a positive police force. Is that correct?
No. That's what I heard, and the survey that was handed out came back pretty positive, which I'm happy to do because I spend a lot of time when the new officers come here, telling them that their whole mentality should be that they want to be an ambassador to the community, which they serve, and I really stress community policing. I want to see officers get out there, walk the beat, deliver. You see on our Facebook page, we've had officers shoveling out senior citizens who couldn't get out of their driveways. They've gone and taken presents to people who couldn't afford them. They've taken turkeys, hams, and visited senior citizens and helped the people who are in need. To me, that's law enforcement. That's what law enforcement should be representative of. It should be helping people and doing the positive things for your community. Listen, is there a time we're going to have to arrest? Yeah. It's just that's reality. There's certain situations that we have no control over, that the law says you must make the arrest. But it's also important how you make the arrest. You got to leave people with their dignity. You can't take somebody's dignity away. And that's what I stress in the officers. They need to, and it's part of what we have in the interviews as they sit here before they go on the road, and that is, I tell them, you need to have an attitude and a philosophy that there before the grace of God go I. And how would you want to be treated if you were in that given situation? And if that was your family member, I want you to go out and treat every situation like that's your daughter or that's your son in that situation. And how would you treat them and how would you want to be treated? And that's what we have to do. Look, not everybody is going to like you. That's another fact of life. Not everybody's going to like it. And they may have a bad, but this is the thing I say to the officers. You get one shot at perception. And perception's reality. You can't change somebody how they feel and how they perceive you. And they may not always like you and they may say things about you, but at the end of the day, as long as you know you did the right thing and everybody else knows you did the right thing, you may not change that perception. But for a majority of it, it's positive, and that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I have one question perhaps for you before we wrap this up, and that's something that only you can answer, and that's in the last 12 months that you've been doing all this, review and reform and self-internalizing and reviewing of the department, what's been the most surprising thing that you've learned or that you've taken away from this whole process? What's been the most surprising thing for you personally?
There's been a couple of things that are surprising, things that I learned, which, we're starting to track, which we haven't done before, track the race and gender of the warnings that we issue. And also another new thing that we've started is to, on a monthly basis, track the arrest tickets issued by officers individually so that we could see what's happening, what are the arrests based on, is there a particular pattern that's developing so that we can eliminate the problem before it grows. So it's like, if you get one little leaf of poison ivy and you don't eliminate that leaf of poison ivy, what happens? It climbs up the whole tree. So before that happens, we want to eliminate that poison ivy. So we're taking a look at that to make sure we don't have any problems. And technology is a funny thing, man, because I'm not a technology guy. I'll be the first to tell you, I love technology. I embrace it. I just don't know that much about it. You know, it amazes me when I see kids today. You know, my daughter will text me, and before I can even put a finger on the letter A, she's got 5 different texts going back and forth before I get an answer. So kids today are amazing, and technology is a very important part of what children and what we do today. But one of the things that came out of this is that, and I could look this up for you, but one of the things that came out of this was, I'm right by my computer, is that I have the ability to track by gender and race the tickets issued and arrests made. So, which is important because you can really get a feel for what's going on in your agency that way. And one thing we couldn't judge, which I found out, but now I've instituted, is that when you issue a warning, obviously there's no ticket, no paper trail, but you can do a paper trail in a supplemental report. So I've instituted a procedure a while ago that we are now tracking the warnings that are issued, because that's just as important as the tickets that are issued. If we're issuing, you know, if we were issuing an inordinate amount of warnings to one specific race class, that would be a problem for me. So we're taking a look at that because I was able to pull our statistics for the tickets issued now. Interestingly enough, and you would expect this, the numbers were greater as far as the number of arrests and tickets issued in 2019 as compared to 2020. Why? Because it was COVID year in 2020. So everything changed with COVID. Numbers went way down.
Right.
But what didn't go down, as I took a look at it, is the percentages of the breakdowns of the tickets issued across different race classes. And I found that there was no systemic, problem within the agency from any officer or from the overall numbers issued. And I'm going to just take a look at this really quickly for you.
Sure.
To give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And so for 2019, there were 421 total tickets issued. 249 were issued to white Caucasian, 91 were issued to Black African American, and 77 issued to Hispanic, and 4 were issued to Asian or other. That breaks down to 60% being issued to white Caucasian, 21% being issued to Black African American, and 18% being issued to Hispanic, and 1% to other Asian. 2020, COVID year, numbers way down, 101 tickets issued. 55 were issued to white Caucasian, that was 55%. Black African American, 19 were issued, 19%. Hispanic, 27 tickets issued for 26%. And you look at the total, now you look at the arrests by breakdown. 2019, 60 arrests were made to white Caucasian, which totaled 48%. Black African American, 25%, there were 31 arrests, and Hispanic had 33 at 27 arrests, for a total of 124 arrests, 2019. Now, how does the symmetry go to 2020 with this COVID? Well, there was a breakdown, 20 arrests for white Caucasian, 20 for Black African American, 17 for Hispanic. So in a COVID year where there was only 57 arrests, it was 35%, 30%, which is just about equal across the board. In 19, it was greater at the end. So there was no significant data that stood out there that indicated that there was an inordinate amount of tickets issued to minority group.
Right, and I guess
you talk about what do you find out? Well, that's one thing I never knew. I never even, because I don't, we always look at making sure that people are treated fairly and treated equally, and that's what you do. So you never, and out of these meetings, I've learned that there's always going to be systemic issues. There's implicit bias is innate. It's in everybody. It's innate. But it's how you recognize it, how you deal with it, and how you make sure that it doesn't grow within your municipality or your agency that's coming. So one of the other things we looked at is training. We're offering more trainings for implicit bias, for sensitivity training, for mental health, dealing with mental health issues, use of force. So a lot of training is going across the board as well. So there's a lot to this, Alan, and I know we run through the time, but I've learned a lot, and I will continue. You know, I always tell my officers, the day that you stop learning is the day you should retire, because everybody has room to learn, and I do not know everything, and I'm I'm willing to meet with anybody. Anybody can come in here. This police department is transparent. You can come take a tour. You arrange it. You can take a tour. You come meet the officers. I think that's a lot of it too. You got to get to know the officers that work in your community, and that's why I hire local. I try to hire local as possible.
Yeah.
If not, we try to get out there and do. You know, when COVID's over, we're going to run some things that, well, it gets under control, I should say, because COVID's always going to be here. But we're going to get out and have some meet and greets with the community. Maybe one of my ideas was to have like a little barbecue meet and greet, or like even an ice cream social, just to have people come and meet us.
Yeah. Just to show that it is a community police force and break down any barriers people perceive there to be, right? Just open that way communication. So the last thing I just wanted just to go back to, so this is obviously recording in March. I know you said there's a meeting tonight. This probably will air in the coming days. So the meeting that's happening tonight will have already happened by the time people see this. But so just to kind of tie a bow on the process, you said that the reform and the review has to be delivered back to the state by April. Is that correct?
April 1st is the deadline.
Yeah, and then that's when you review the plan that you put in place moving forward. Is that what that's?
No, the plan gets submitted to the state after it's approved by the Board of Trustees for the village.
Okay.
So the village of Ellenville will meet. They will approve the plan. They've already gotten my changes for my policies. That's already been supplied to them. They've already gotten all the statistics and things that we've instituted. So they will, the plan has been put together, you know, from the upstairs, from the administration. The board will review it. They'll either approve it or send it back for further review. If they approve it, the next step is it goes up to Governor Cuomo's office for final approval. Yeah,
I guess I wonder what happens there. Like, if the state and the governor in this case is going to be reviewing all of these plans from all of the different police departments, are they then going to send give feedback, or what's the next step? I guess
I would imagine that they're going to take a look at these plans, make sure that they're in conformance with the order specifically. The order was very specific and had to have a number of elements comprised to it, and if it meets all the standards, I imagine the governor's office will approve it, and then it will become part and parcel. We'll institute it no matter what. You know, it's going to be instituted, and you know, our advisory board will be formed, and we'll start meeting then. And you know, one of the things that the functions of the advisory board obviously is to bring about any complaints and make some recommendations. So. Yeah.
So the last thing I will ask you, just to put out there, is if people want to get more information, whether it's on the police reform or the advisory board that we talked about that's being formed, or even just the police department itself, what's the best way to get in contact with you or to learn more about that?
So the village is going to put the plan on online. Our policies and procedures are also going to be online. So anybody can call me. It's 845-647-4422. If I'm not in the office, ask for extension 318. I will get back to you, or you can email me at pmattracion@villageellenvillepd.com. I'll get back to you either way, but or just stop in and say hello. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's break bread, so we can just have a conversation if you want. We're out and about, and the officers are out and about, and we're going to be, you know, as like I said, this is going to be as transparent as the air you breathe.
Well, I appreciate it. So that brings us to the end of today's show. A big thank you to my guest, Village of Ellenville Police Chief Philip Mattracion. And I've been your host, Alan Buckley. If you want to get in touch with me, you can just call me at the high school TV and radio studio at 647-0135, or you can email me at alan@welvradio.com. That's alan@welvradio.com. Until then, goodbye for now, and thank you once again to
Alan. So I think you should title this on, you know, when you send this out, Conversation Not Cuffs, Police Reform.
I like that. Conversation Not Cuffs, Police Reform with Mattracion. Again, thank you so much for being here, Chief.
Yeah. Take care, Alan.
I'll talk to you again.
Yep. Thank you very much.